I come to you today with the unfortunate news that Fernandes Guitars, and in turn Burny Guitars, have ceased operations and filed for bankruptcy. Now, this news broke on the 11th of this month. However, it hasn't really been covered by any guitar media in the English-speaking sphere. It's only really been covered by Japanese-speaking news outlets. And while this isn't good news for really any guitar player, it's never good when a guitar company goes out of business, but it's maybe even worse because of the reasons that they say they're going out of business. We're going to take a look at that. But first, we should probably briefly just cover who Fernandes are, because they've been around a lot longer than I initially thought. They've been around since 1969. They're a Japanese company that originally started making classical guitars, but by 1973 they moved into the electric guitar sphere. And like many Japanese-made brands from the time, they were making copy guitars. There are plenty of Japanese guitar brands from around that period that were making copies of Fender Strats, copies of Les Pauls and such. The now world-renowned Ibanez were one such brand. This is a complete Les Paul copy, violating multiple trademarks. This was a Japanese-made brand that just made copies at one point, but where Ibanez and Fernandes differ is that Ibanez stopped making copies and, well, Fernandes didn't. There were two Fernandes-based guitar brands. Those that said Fernandes were normally the Fender copies, P basses, Strats, Tellys and so on. And then for the Gibson copies, specifically the Les Pauls, that was Burny Guitars. And from my experience of playing both Fernandes and Burny, I thought they were good guitars. Granted, I did play the later models, and towards the later end, not Burny, they were still Les Paul copies, but Fernandes did start to take on a little bit of their own stuff with some super Strats that were their own. They weren't blatant copies. But unlike a lot of Japanese guitar brands which stayed in Japan, Fernandes, kind of taking a page out of Ibanez's book, did move to the US. In 1992, they opened up in Los Angeles, California, and a few years later even opened up a Fernandes custom shop. Just like Ibanez, they had the LA custom shop with Ibanez, same concept with Fernandes. And throughout the years, Fernandes had multiple notable successes and some notable failures. For example, they had the licensing of Hi-Watt in the US, but that really wasn't much of a success at that time. But they did have a big success with the Fernandes Sustainer, a pickup that could sustain and hold and feed back a note. However, kind of like the guitars at the time, this was a copy because they were copying the Sustainiac pickup. So much so that the Fernandes Sustainer even at one point became more notable and well known as opposed to the original design, which was the Sustainiac. But that is no longer now. All of Fernandes' businesses have been brought to a halt. However, there were indications of what was to come. As far back as last year, when Fernandes' US division closed. If you visited the website, it would tell you that it was shut down. And to visit the Japanese division. This is one of the news sites that's covered Fernandes' bankruptcy, and we'll just read, I've translated this here so we can read a little bit. Fernandes Co. Limited will suspend its business on July 11th. Currently, we are bearing a considerable amount of debt to multiple creditors. We are truly sorry, but it is impossible to continue the business. The total debt is 433.89 million yen as of the fiscal year ending January 2024. That's roughly about $3 million. There's a paragraph here on what they do, what they're well known for, licensing agreements with artists, and we'll look at that in a second. But it says here, however, in recent years, business performance has deteriorated due to the rise of the second-hand market and intensified competition. We aim to make a comeback by creating catalogs and releasing new products, but in the fiscal year ending January 2022, sales fell to 166.08 million yen, and the final deficit of 24.14 million yen was recorded. In addition, Osaka Fernandes was decided to start bankruptcy by the Osaka District Court on April 26, 2023, due to sluggish sales. As our company credibility also declined, the cash flow reached its limit, and it became difficult to continue business. Now, it's never nice to see a guitar company close down. It just means less guitars, which is never a good thing. However, it's kind of concerning seeing the reasons that they're citing for closing down, because there are other reasons that we could maybe ponder about, and we'll get to those, but mentioning the second-hand market, the amount of guitars on the second-hand market, is very interesting in a somber way. You see, Fernandes wasn't just some unknown, no-name brand. They even had a bit of star power behind them. There were pictures of Kirk Hammett playing Fernandes guitars, and they had made signature models for players like Brad Gillis of Night Ranger, Dave Kushner of Velvet Revolver, among other well-known players. The problem is, when it came to US or maybe international sales in general, the majority of their sales and guitars were stocked in brick-and-mortar stores, which is worryingly getting less and less prominent. Already we're seeing guitar shops close down. I'll do another video about that. But yes, that's probably not helping Fernandes in this case internationally. But if you look at their core market in Japan, Fernandes also made a number of beginner guitars. And if you're looking at the Japanese economy, the yen has been going down for at least the last 5 years, just on a downward trajectory. And then if you look at the population, it's kind of equally been following that trend. So with less people, with less money, you're going to have less people learning guitar. That will obviously have an impact on their beginner guitar sales. But the reports on the second-hand market impacting Burny are equally troublesome because, well, if it's affecting them, it's going to be affecting other brands too. I've been saying it for a long time. When you look at big brands like Gibson or Fender, who really don't differ from the designs that they've been making since the 60s and 50s, it's hard to see how they're competing with the second-hand market. Fender just released the Fender Player 2, which is more reissues of Strats. A lot of people have been talking about the second-hand market of guitars being flooded, and it maybe is the case. You can get very good deals now. Of course, it's going to be post-COVID when everything skyrocketed in price and guitars were selling for huge amounts of money because factories had all shut down, so there was a limit on them. But post-COVID, there's so many guitars out there now that this is affecting brands. We're seeing this right now. And just so you know that this is real, this is the Fernandes Japan site, and on the information section they've got this. If we pop it into Google Translate, we get the announcement of bankruptcy. So this is real. And frankly, it's a shame. Like, I played Fernandes guitars before. I even ended up buying a Burny guitar, which is again under the same brand as Fernandes, or the same umbrella as Fernandes. I bought one of those for Glenn in the guitar shopping video. I'll link it. But that was a really good guitar. But again, it was on the second-hand market. Burny did not financially benefit from that. Fernandes did not financially benefit from that purchase. So they are right in saying that the second-hand market is eating into their profits. So I can only imagine what other companies who've been around for much longer and been pumping out the same or roughly the same guitars are feeling with the second-hand market. So that's the video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on this video, and if you really enjoyed it, consider subscribing. We're getting close to 100,000 subscribers, and every little helps. I would very much appreciate it, and you'll get sometimes videos like this, which I don't think anyone's uploaded yet. So you're getting in first. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.